Hi, I'm Colonel Doug Macgregor, the CEO for Our Country, Our Choice. We're going to talk a minute to Jeff Buongiorno in Palm Beach. Jeff is a long-time advocate for clean, honest elections. He's done a lot of research. He's run for supervisor in the past. He's running this 5 November down in Palm Beach to be the election supervisor. I don't think you could find anybody better for the job, frankly, because this man knows something about how these elections really work. And that's one of the reasons we asked him on today. And we want him to talk about his experience, exactly what he's seen in the past, and what he wants to do if he's elected. Jeff?
Well, thanks for having me on. Thanks for that introduction. I appreciate the voice. So yeah, we just started early voting yesterday in Palm Beach County, and it's been a long ride just to get here. The Sun Sentinel and the local newspapers are censoring me. My opponent Wendy Link has blocked me on X. She's from her official government account. She's not supposed to do that. So we definitely have issues here on the ground, but overall the campaign seems to be going well. I was out with the people at early voting today, and it seems like there's a force, there's a movement towards conservatism, towards MAGA, and I'm praying for the best.
Well, I know that most people aren't aware of this, but when you started this process well over a year ago, you had a full head of hair. So this is really taking its toll on you, and people need to understand that sort of thing.
Yeah, and you can't see the wrinkles. So yeah, it's been quite an experience. It's been an uphill battle. We have to undo some of the damage that the mainstream media has done, and it's one of the First Amendment, right? That's our most sacred one. That's why it's the first, and I'm being censored, and all I'm trying to do is provide the truth. We have issues that are being reported, and I know you're going to touch on this later, with these touch screen machines where you don't really you don't fill the oval out. You touch a panel, an LCD panel, and your vote's registered. And we're lobbying hard here in Florida for people to ask for a paper ballot and to fill the ovals in the old school way, not to use this touchscreen panel. This is what they use in Venezuela. And, we're trying to inform people, get the word out. I think I'm not a big fan of early voting. I mean, constitutionally, election day should be one day. When you vote early, we need to do it. There's no doubt. But I'm not a big fan of early voting, and I'm especially not a big fan of early voting on a touchscreen device. Whether you're in Texas, Dallas, Texas County, or Palm Beach County, the people should ask for a paper ballot.
Well, didn't Governor DeSantis make an announcement about Florida would not use Dominion voting machines?
He did, and there was only about 12 counties out of the 67 that used Dominion. But at the end of the day, we have issues. We have other issues. There's issues in the operating systems. Dominion and ES&S, the two main ones. There's Hart, Intercivic, but they're all a spinoff of a company called Diebold, and they sold the same intellectual property. And they're running on, it's kind of like, I don't want to get too technical, but how DOS still exists in Windows. There's old programs and old logic and language, and it's just kind of like putting lipstick on a pig, where they give it a new interface. But those security, I'm going to call them threat vectors, are still there. So it doesn't, Dominion, ES&S, it's much of the same.
Well, we're also hearing that DHS wants some sort of role in the polling places. Have you heard that?
Well, yeah, I've been calling this out for years. If you go to the Department of Homeland Security's website, you can just Google DOJ, 24 states, 64 counties. And these are where the Department of Justice has sent folks from CISA and from DHS under the guise of looking to protect, civil rights. And this is not a good thing. We don't need the feds in our local elections. Where you have the head of CISA, the Cyber Infrastructure Security Agency, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. The head of CISA is the same person who heads Homeland Security, impeached Alejandro Mayorkas. So this is a problem. We need to keep the feds out as much as possible.
Yeah, well, the Constitution is pretty clear that the states have the requirement or the obligation, responsibility to run elections. Whether or not
100%.
that's a good thing, we can debate that sometime, but that's the law. And given the law, it seems very odd that on the grounds of national security, they're going to position themselves in a way that could be construed as interference at the state level.
Yeah, this is nothing new. In 2020, they started with 16 states and 44 counties. And then in 2022, it ballooned up to 24 states in 64 counties. And if you look at all the counties, Maricopa County, Arizona, all these, the usual suspects, Fulton County, I think it's Allegheny County in Pennsylvania. There's all the usual suspects. And one thing that's very telling is they really focus on Alaska. And everyone says, well, why Alaska? And my personal opinion is that the population of Alaska is less than one congressional district, but yet it controls 2 Senate seats. So there's a lot of power being delegated with not a lot of voters. So if they wanted to control 2 Senate seats, that's a very good state to do it.
Yeah, obviously. Well, I know you wanted to show us some slides. So do you want to go to that?
We could go to the slide, sure. Let's pull up the first slide. This is see when this comes up. Yeah, so this is the Sun Sentinel. I did a questionnaire and I filled out the truth. I filled out the cyber threats. In my questionnaire, I called out the cyber threats. I called out the risk of mail-in ballot. I ran for Congress, and I saw a lot of my potential constituents, and I asked, did you vote for me? And they said, well, I'm not sure. My wife filled out the ballot. So I'm totally against mail-in ballots. I wrote that in my questionnaire, and the Sun Sentinel refused to print it. I'm also being censored, if we go to the next slide, by my political opponent, Wendy Link. This is another slide. If we could talk about this blank ballot scandal for a moment, spend a few seconds here. We have a problem in Florida with blank ballots being counted, being registered into our system. And the state and county officials tell us they don't exist. But through FOIA records, we proved that right here on the yellow highlighted area that there were 20,313 blank ballots counted in the 2020 general election in Palm Beach County and over 60,000 in Broward County. So this is a problem. And if you see the memo on this screen, this is the Palm Beach County Canvassing Board passing a rule, effectually legislating through rules that they're not going to report to the public the number of blank ballots that are counted or the number of vote-by-mail ballots that are duplicated. 2 very large threat vectors that they're now masquerading through changing rules, which I think is very unconstitutional and, quite frankly, illegal. If we go to the next slide. So we talked about this in our one of our earlier interviews, where what this chart is showing us is Help America Verify Voters, and this is part of a federal law. It's the Help America Vote Act. And the problem here, you see step 1, 2, and 3. Step 1, you register using only a 4-digit code, the last 4 digits of your social security number. So then you get on the voter rolls, and we have these third-party NGOs going around registering people, no photo ID. Step 2, you're already on the roll. On the voter roll, you want to now go and request a vote-by-mail ballot. You just go online and you type in that 4-digit code and your date of birth, and you're sent a ballot in the mail. And step 3, you mail that ballot. So now you have a nameless, faceless person that quite possibly could be a non-citizen or even a synthetic identity. If you want to go on to the next slide.
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
Okay. So this is, we've been working with some great people, and we're doing a lot of FOIAs, or public records requests. And in our deep dive, trying to get into the blank ballots, we needed a specific report. And when we got that report back, they finally answered the date of the report was September 13th, 1984, and the time was 4:23 a.m. So this is not anything normal. It was May 1st, 2023. The date should not be 1984. I think anyone, you don't need to be a tech to understand that. But behind it, there's a technique. It's called time stomping, and this is an anti-forensics tool. And to make it simple, it's the equivalent of freezing a dead body to throw off the police investigators with time of death. It makes it very hard to track log files when they come up with dates that aren't sequential, especially when they're 20 and 30 years apart. So I want to go on to the next one. So Tina Peters, she brought this out. And the reason I know about time stomping, well, I knew about it, but I found it in Mesa County, Colorado's image of their production server that was used in the 2020 election. We found time stomping in their server. So now we see it in Colorado, and now we see it in Palm Beach County. So, this is a problem. We can go on to the next slide. So now VR Systems they're in 6 different states. They're in Florida. I'm not sure of all the states. I believe that they're in Michigan. At any rate, I'm focused on Florida. And in 2016, VR Systems, they came out and said, yeah, we were hacked by Russia. And Florida stuck with the contract. They're still a third-party contractor, and they control basically the vote-by-mail requests, the vote-by-mail database. So they have the voter registration database, and they're responsible for telling the supervisor of elections, who to mail a ballot to and when they requested it. They're the custodian of records for online vote-by-mail requests. And on August 14th, I alerted Palm Beach County officials that there's a virus, there's malicious software on VR Systems, and we're going to have a problem on August 20th. And on August 20th, that was our primary. VR Systems is supposed to report what's called election night results. And all 67 counties in Florida they went down for at least 2 hours. So it's very suspicious because at the time the polls closed, 7 p.m., they're supposed to report real-time results. They failed to report real-time results. So now we have a 2-hour window for malicious activity. And that file still persists.
Well, let me ask you a question, and then we'll move on to some comments that have been made by our members that I'd like your reaction to them.
Sure.
The question I have is, if you stood at the polls and you said, everyone standing in line to vote right now, if you do not have valid identification papers identifying you as a United States citizen, please step out of the line. If you do not step out of the line and we discover that you have voted, you can be punished under the law. You have 10 seconds to make a decision. What would that do?
I think I think it would have little impact because the fraud with the non-citizens is being perpetuated by mail. They don't want to show their faces. And I believe that the same third-party voter registration organizations that are registering these people, as soon as the registration date stops, then the vote by mail ballots go out. They go and do the ballot harvesting and do the dirty work and drop them in the mail. I believe the people that are standing in line, they're anxious to vote. They're American citizens. They're not going to, if you're doing something illegal and you can mail it and not show your face or go online, most likely you're going to mail it, right?
Oh, that makes sense. All right. Well, Jeff, now we need to turn to some articles that have been posted on Republic. This is the new social media platform, and it's really heating up in a very positive way. It's a free speech platform on a grassroots level, and that's what we're getting. Now, we received an article here from Pennsylvania, and this is about illegal voting in Pennsylvania, and they contend that they found a record showing a way to prove that votes were actually thrown away. In other words, many, many ballots were thrown away at the right places in the right time. And from these numbers in the photo, we can see they threw out as many tens of thousands of votes in Philadelphia. Not a big surprise since I'm from Philadelphia. and they contend with at least 50 to 60,000, and perhaps on a repetitive basis may have led to as many 700,000 illegal votes. What do you think?
Yeah, Philadelphia is a unique place, and I want to, thank the Republic.us for, not censoring any of this election fraud reporting. So that's a great article. And, Philadelphia, it's the cheating's been going on there for years. We even have, get this, we have polling precincts where you can vote in funeral homes. So there's a lot of questions, more questions than answers in Philadelphia. And we know Pennsylvania as a whole, there were reports that there were 225,000 more votes counted than ballots cast. And then you also have a lot of people aren't talking about Jesse the truck driver, Jesse Morgan, where he picked up a truckload, a 53-foot trailer load full of ballots and drove them, to Pennsylvania. It was almost like a distribution center for these ballots that were in a trailer. And the postal system even covered up we tried to do FOIA requests for those ballots going to the Philly area, and they changed the law that the United States Postal System only had to retain their records for 2 years. And then as soon as 2 years passed, they refused to answer. They changed the law back to 7 years. So more questions than answers. Elon Musk, Scott Pressler, doing great in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. I'm feeling good about Pennsylvania. Not like 2020. I think it's going to be different.
Well, being from Philadelphia, I can tell you my experience across the state is there are a lot of angry people. And if they see more of this scandalous cheating, I think it could get ugly. So I hope the people that are engaging in this think twice before they do it.
They pissed off the Amish people, and they're coming out to vote too. With the farmer who they wouldn't sell his raw natural milk, they shut him down. That pissed the Amish off, and they're coming out full force.
Well, let's hope so. Those people have always been pretty reliable voters in every election. This next one is from Tarrant County, Texas. Talks about reported instances of voting machines altering their selection from Trump to Kamala Harris.
Shocking.
What do you make of this?
Yeah, well, this is something that I alluded to earlier in Palm Beach County, where I was at the polling station and letting voters know that the touchscreen computers that they want you to vote on, number one, the original intention was for ADA compliancy for handicapped folks. And you can request a paper ballot. Those machines, those touchscreen nodes, devices, whatever you want to call them, they're computers, they were used in Venezuela, right? And, you get a receipt and it shows who you voted for, but you don't really know what was registered. So I encourage everyone, if they're faced with a touchscreen voting device, to ask for a paper ballot. It might take them 15 minutes. They might punish you, but it's worth it. Wait for a paper ballot, fill the oval in like the old days, and stay away from those machines.
Yeah, absolutely. Then finally here we have Congress that says it's widening its probe of Democrat fundraising. And they're checking bank cards, trying to establish whether or not lots of foreign money has made its way into the Democratic Party for the election. Well, what is that all about? Yeah,
well, I work pretty much day in and day out with the two great investigators that uncovered that. Chris Gleason from Pinellas County. He was a candidate for supervisor of elections, and it was a very scandalous election in his primary. He primaried a Republican, and a guy named Peter Berninger. And, we talk about the Congress writing strongly worded letters and blaming Iran and foreign actors. We need to look at Wells Fargo Bank, because how the scam was perpetuated was that gift cards were purchased in regular citizens' names, and the gift cards would donate, make in small increments. That's why they call it smurfing, small. They would donate to Democrat candidates. So we need to look at Wells Fargo. They basically laundered this dark money. They issued the gift cards without CVV codes, without security codes. And the next thing we should do is people who were basically had their identity stolen, they must go to Actul and ask for a refund. We can make them, we could put some pain right in the wallet right now. We don't need Congress and we don't need an investigation. Everyone ask for a refund. And it's the great work of Chris Gleason and Peter Berninger. You know, there's a lot of other people that are, James O'Keefe discovered it, uncovered it. These guys work day and night, and I'm working with these same people using some of the same technology. We're building our own AI models, and this is where we're finding these discrepancies, these blank ballots. We're also seeing in Florida that 219,000 ballots were supposedly requested on the same day, vote by mail ballots. And so, you know, we have some great investigators out there, and we need to hit them in the wallet, ask for a refund, and let's lean on Congress, on law enforcement. It's Wells Fargo. They facilitated it. That's my opinion, and that's what it strongly suggests.
Well, it also raises questions about the wisdom of using cyberspace in any way, shape, or form. You listen to all of these discussions about AI fakes. I'm hearing these all the time. If you're at all worried about authenticity and accuracy, you want a paper ballot.
Yeah.
And you need to show up.
You need to show your face. You know, I say every 4 years after the general election, voter registrations, they all expire, like our driver's license and our credit cards, and we go and we renew our registration. That now we're not beholden to some of these corrupt officials to clean the voter rolls, right? Michigan, they know there's 500,000 extra voters. They don't want to take them off the roll till after the election. It makes no sense. It's only for nefarious activity. Every 4 years, purge the voter rolls, re-register, and elections will be a lot cleaner.
Yeah, I simply want to move the whole registration process to police stations and let the local police, under the direction of the sheriff, be responsible for it, and issue everyone who comes in there and registers, once they show proof of citizenship and legal residence, and they get a registration card. And that card is good as long as they live in that area. If they move to another area, they have to show that card, turn it in, and say, I now live here and I'd like to vote here.
Yes and no. Involving law enforcement, the town charters in Palm Beach County, the responsibility really goes to the town council, right? And they know their residents. So you have 39 municipalities. They know that who the people are. And I think it should really, kick back to these town charters that were written like in 1909. And I think it's still valid. Yeah, the police station maybe, but I think that the local politicians, or town councils for each town should control that. And we count the precincts, we count the ballots at the precincts, not centralized, right? It's not who votes, it's who gets to count the vote. We need to decentralize that.
Well, the only reason that I opted for the police is that most of the time the police really aren't corrupt. Most of the time they want to do what's right. That's been my experience. And I think that a lot of people want to vote who have no business voting, and they're afraid to go to a police station.
Yeah, we have some issues here in Palm Beach County with our sheriff. Our sheriff acts as a brown shirt. If there's any dissent in a county commissioners meeting, I know Ann Vandersteel reported on this, we weren't allowed to say the word non-citizens. They turned off our mics and the sheriffs escorted us out. So, I have some issues in this county.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that, and I know that's a problem because the sheriff is ultimately elected. But a sheriff that refuses to enforce what is federal law and state law has no business being a sheriff.
Constitutional sheriffs, that's what we need.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff. Well, thanks a million. I think you're the ideal man for the job as supervisor. And thank you for all the extra work that you've done to help us understand what a monstrous problem it is. I guess it'll be a miracle if we have a clean election at all. And we'll see what happens.
Hey,
in the meantime, we want everybody to go to votebongi.com and make a contribution. And there's the man, Buongiorno. It's hard to miss that name. That's got more vowels in it than I do.
Yeah, you want to buy a vowel? Thank you.
That's right.
Great work, guys. We love the Republic too. Everybody's got to get on republic.us. Check it
That's
out.
right. Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
Jeff. I
You're welcome.
appreciate it. Bye-bye.